Hello and welcome back. My name is Victor Adatiba here with Agile Tech Training Academy. We are on another episode of our Agile Leadership Series where we speak to people who are working in technology, on Agile teams or around Agile development teams, and find out a little bit more about them, their background, and their career. And today, I have the honor of interviewing a very special guest, Tomeka Morrison. How are you today?
Pretty good. I can't complain.
Good, Tamika. So, why don't you go ahead and give us an introduction of yourself? Why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of what you currently do, the title that they call you at work, and a little bit about kind of how you got into that role?
Okay, awesome. So again, I'm Tomeka. I am a data analytics manager at the City of Dallas for the Data Analytics and Business Intelligence Department. It's a mouthful. We government, everything has an acronym, so we are DBI. You're not the government if you don't have acronyms, right?
Gotcha.
So I've been a data analytics manager for the past like 3 or 4 months. I was promoted sometimes around the beginning of the year. But prior to that, I was a data analyst on their team. And some of my day to day roles just kind of involve being kind of the stakeholder for client departments, and these client departments are other departments within the city.
Mhm.
They'll have data, they want to make sense of it. We'll take a look at it. We kind of act as that data SME to kind of walk alongside them and give them best advice on data warehousing, so storing their data, collecting clean data. If we notice that the data is not clean, we will also suggest like cleaning processes because, as we like to say, junk in, junk out. If you
Mhm.
have bad data, you're not going to have any really good information that you get from it. And
Sure.
then ultimately, what we like to do is visualize their data or create a tool for them to potentially show their stakeholders, whether it's internal to the department or residents of the city of Dallas.
Wonderful. So, what was your background before getting into this role? Like, did you have like some sort of technical degree, or did you work in a technical role prior to getting into data?
So no, I actually do not have a technical background, a tech background. I have a bachelor's degree in political science, more so international studies, and I have a minor in social work, specifically poverty studies. So far, far, far from anything tech related, data related specifically. What I did find that a lot in my career, I've worked in the public sector. So whether that was teaching, working with the U.S. Census Bureau, working with FEMA. I was always kind of in the public sector, and I had my hands on data, even though I didn't know specifically that there was a field for it, right?
Hmm.
So, working with my last role with FEMA, when I was traveling with FEMA, I recall being out on a deployment and just kind of hearing on a podcast somebody said something about data science or data analytics, and they were kind of going into what they did day to day. And I remember putting like a voice note in my phone and like, okay, I'm gonna just look into that, whatever that is, because I'm the kind of person that I like to say I'm a stats and facts kind of person. So I can hear something and I'll like note it down or open up a window tab on my phone to go look it up later. I'll look it up and I'll go read about it later.
Yeah,
That's
same
why I have
here.
like 60 tabs open. I have like 60 tabs open on my phone. I'll just random stuff I'm always going to get back to reading. So a few months later, I recall like going through my notes, just trying to clean them out, and I saw something about data analytics on there, and I was like, let me try to deep dive and see what this is because I noted this down for a reason. That led me to watching several YouTube videos about what data analytics was. I had, like I said, I always liked statistics, numbers. I had not always been good at statistics, but I did always like, how people came to certain numbers or decisions were made when they quote stuff and say, well, 60% of XYZ believe this. And I'm like, well,
Hmm.
what's the methodology behind that, right? Who is that 60%? How
Right.
big was the sample size? So I decided to go look up data analytics, just the word, just Googled it. And I found some YouTube videos. And I was like, wow, there's a career field where people actually like use numbers to make decisions.
Right.
And so from looking that up, I tried to see if there was any way I could like learn how to do it. And I stumbled upon a boot camp to kind of like earn a professional certificate in data analytics.
Hmm.
And it was a complete like leap of faith. I was working for FEMA at the time. We would have opportunities where we did not work because the work was intermittent. And I decided to take off. 24 weeks to
Oh
take this
wow.
program on.
So this is like
Yeah,
six
so it was
months.
definitely, it was definitely 6 months. So they actually had a 12-week program, but I figured because it was such a new skill and I was not, tech savvy per se. And after
Mm-hmm.
reading the curriculum and it was a lot of like coding languages, I said, I'm going to actually give myself the grace and the opportunity to learn this. So instead of doing the 12 weeks, I'm going to do the 24-week program.
Yeah.
So I kind of prepared myself the months before because it started in May 2019 of
Mm-hmm.
just being kind of like prepared to take time off. I used to, I again, I work intermittently, so I love taking time off to just not do anything. So this was just gonna fall in line with that anyway. So I took the program, completed it in 20 November 2019. So right before Thanksgiving, I was done with the program. We all know that COVID happened March 2020, but it's interesting because prior to COVID happening, I had a really good portfolio and also like side project experience. So I
Mm-hmm.
would be like doing data projects for, and this is something interesting that people could think about. Even though you don't have experience in data analytics, you can always find problems to solve. So whether you're
Right.
working with small businesses to try to make sense of their, customers and providing them a dashboard, that can count towards a portfolio. So from November to March, before shutdown happened, I was actually getting resume hits. Like I had gone on interviews, so I knew my resume was good, and
Yeah.
I had gone on interviews up until like the week before shutdown, where I actually interviewed at like Microsoft, and because they didn't know where this whole COVID thing was going, I did not get the job.
Mm-hmm.
So that led me going back out on the road with FEMA for a bit to work during the pandemic. That particular deployment was pretty stressful because it was out of state. All felt like the world was falling down around you because people
Mm-hmm.
were dropping like flies, excuse my French. But when I decided to come back home, I got a job with the Census Bureau. So that was July 2020. And I said, you know what? I have this certification. I've been kind of building my portfolio. Let me work on applying again to jobs. So when I came back in July, I started applying to jobs and I actually got landed 2 interviews. The first interview I had was with a nonprofit organization. And I knew at the point in time when I bombed the interview when I couldn't answer a specific question about SQL. And it was a very detailed question that it was complete oversight on my part. But when I couldn't answer that question, I know I bombed the interview.
Yeah.
The second interview I actually had, which was probably the end of October, was with the city of Dallas. So I took that interview with my manager at the time. And then about a week later, I had a second interview with the director of the team. And she
Mm-hmm.
was a very bubbly personality person. And it's crazy to say this, but I actually thought about this today because I went to the office today. But I thought about how I actually manifested that job down to the starting salary and the work environment.
Oh,
And so when
wow.
I met the director, and she was just this bubbly personality, she talks like a million miles an hour, but she was very like, I just loved her energy.
Sure.
And so it's interesting because I actually got that job and she called me the day before Thanksgiving to offer me the job because she said she wanted me to go into the holidays, with something good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was November of 2020. And I actually started with the city of Dallas. Like my first day was the first Monday of 2021. So it was like the
Oh, wow.
4th or something
Mm-hmm.
of December 2021. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like my journey from having no technical background to
Mm-hmm.
kind of like learning at a boot camp to getting hits on the resume. So I knew the resume was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then landing my first job at a place that like the environment was exactly what I would have wanted for a job.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you get discouraged at any time? Because there were some, right, there were some highs and some lows, right? You had the interviews, COVID happened, you bombed the interview. Was there any time where you got discouraged and were like, because and you had to go back to doing the FEMA work, right? When you thought you were gonna,
Yeah.
make this transition. Did you get discouraged at any point and say, you know what, this isn't for me. Maybe I don't have the chops to actually do this. Like, what was your mindset like going through that?
So I think for me, like the biggest kind of like time where I had to kind of like look inward was during my boot camp. And a boot camp, if anybody doesn't know, it's very like you're hitting a new topic every week and you're
Sure.
flying. And for
Sure.
someone that's learning a new topic, what I if is it a good way to learn? Who knows? You have to be somewhat of a self starter.
Mm-hmm.
So during the boot camp, I was watching people drop out of the boot camp like flies, right? And mind you, this particular boot camp was prior to COVID, so it was in person. I was driving almost an hour and a half away to a university on the other side of Dallas to take this boot camp twice a week and on a Saturday. And so what really helped me kind of push through that kind of like discouragement was
Mm-hmm.
building a like a support group, right? So within the boot camp, I would connect with like there were two other young ladies in the boot camp. One was like from India, the other one was from Pakistan, and we would meet up to like just reinforce what we had learned. We would meet up to like work in projects together,
Mm-hmm.
and it just kind of having that support as you're learning something new really helps you kind of like progress through stuff.
Yeah.
And even after the boot camp finished, we would still meet up to like review jobs together, like help a resume. So I think having that support system made me not want to kind of get discouraged because
Mm-hmm.
throughout the whole process, from me completing the boot camp to finding a job a year later, I was still in contact with the support system. So
Sure.
when those young ladies got jobs, you know, I heard about it and it was like, okay, well, we went through the same process together. Then my job is next. You got
Right.
one, my job is next.
Right.
So I didn't really have that discouragement because I found that in order for me to keep going, you kind of need that support system around you and like people that are kind of in the mud with you. Now, when COVID did happen, I was like, man, I think so much was going on. You're not thinking, oh, wow, is this the right career path? You're like, okay, am I
Is
good? Right? I'm here.
yeah.
I'm healthy. I'm
Is the
good.
world going to
Let
end?
me, so where's the world going to end? Do I need to choose my, my Walking Dead crew, to make it
Right.
through this? So, but I actually did not get discouraged in making the transition because I felt like I was doing something right because when I kept putting myself out there applying and stuff, I was getting hit. So I'm like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
The right job has just not found me yet.
Yeah.
But definitely having that support system when you're going through something completely new helped me push through that speed round of a boot camp where you're
Yeah.
learning a new topic, especially something like coding, Python, every week, and you're having to complete projects on top of that.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be stressful. So when you got your first offer, what did the compensation package kind of look like, and where have you ascended to? Because I think you say you started as a data
Coordinator,
coordinator,
yes,
right? And now you're a manager of a data team, right?
correct,
So what
correct.
what does that kind of salary trajectory look like to where you're at, and like where is like the ceiling on the salary of someone working in data?
So when I started the data coordinator, because I'm a public employee, most of the stuff is it's public. You can find this out, even federal government salaries. My starting offer, and it, like I said previously, I actually manifested this because I thought about at the time I was reading this book called, and I don't know, but it's called "You're a Badass at Making Money," right? And so
You're
she kind of talks
badass
about men.
making money.
Yeah, you're a badass at making money, and
Okay.
so
My
and
kind of
reading
book.
the yeah. So in reading the book, she talks about how like we can't be afraid of money and we can't have a fear of wanting money. We
Mm-hmm.
need money to be comfortable in life. So at that time, like I sat down and evaluated where I was in my life, and I decided what would be a comfortable salary for me at that time. And I wrote it because there's manifestations that you write after each
Yep.
chapter of the book based on
Mm-hmm.
different quotes that she says. And so I remember I wrote down like 65, right? And this
Mm-hmm.
was I probably wrote the book back in 2020. So this is like earlier 2020 before I even like got the job, was even applying or anything like that. This was before the whole pay transparency and everything. So when I applied for my job, I believe the starting salary was between like 55 and 65.
Mm-hmm.
And so of course when you're applying a job, you're like, oh, okay, I'm not thinking I'm going to get the top, anything like that. I know it's going to be somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually applied for the job when I applied for my first job with the city and I got it. I got close to the top of the range, which was $65,000 even, literally
Mm-hmm.
the number I had written down months before that I
Yeah.
said I would need. And so that was coming in like an entry level data coordinator, which for my department is under a data analyst. And pretty much every year that I've been with the department, I've been promoted. And so currently I'm at about 95 right now
Mm-hmm.
in my range. But as far as trajectory of where to go, there you can go from a data analyst to a obviously private sector. You're going to make more money. My compensation package also includes a pension as well as other benefits that other perks for working with the public sector, like tuition. The public service loan forgiveness, which you can get after 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just some things and I had always worked in public sector, so that was just more so of another appeal for staying with public sector on my part. Of course, private sector, there's more money to be made and more opportunities to grow. I believe data analysts can start off between like they can start well I would say 65 on up.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go into something like data science, which is more statistical based, you can get up to the 120 range, and data engineering could do the same, 120 up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what prior to that point in your career, what did you make as an educator? What did you make while you were working for FEMA?
So it's interesting because as an educator, when I was doing teaching, I was actually a permanent sub, and they put you in a permanent sub position when they don't have a teacher to fill that role, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in the process with you being a permanent sub, you can be there for at least till they hire a teacher. Sometimes they don't hire a teacher. Sometimes you're there for the whole semester or the whole
Mm-hmm.
year.
Mm-hmm.
So I was paid by the day, and that was like $87 a day, or which came out to like $2,200 a month because we got paid monthly like teachers. With that, you also paid into a pension, but it was much lower than what I paid now,
Mm-hmm.
working for the city. With FEMA, we were paid hourly. So it was about $16 an hour at the time. Right now, I'm like about $40 an hour where I'm at. So with
Mm-hmm.
FEMA, I was getting paid $16 an hour, and it was intermittent work, so we worked while we traveled. And then when I was with the census, I was a field supervisor. So I supervised the enumerators going out that were doing the door knocking. That's what they're called, enumerators. The folks that are knocking your door if you don't fill out your census form, to come and ask you about, take your numbers down. I was paid, I think that was either 25 or $26 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So just stepping into a more, a higher paid role. Like I said, when I sat down and looked at the numbers, I'm like, these are the numbers I would need to be comfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
so my first offer for my first role hit that for me at the
Hit that
time.
mark. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Tell me a little bit about like what does work life balance look like? Do you have to go into the office? Are you able to kind of um, still have some time to yourself, or is this like working in an office where you're tied down 8 hours a day, 30-minute lunch break, right? Not a lot of independent working, if you will.
hmm So, like I said earlier, that I kind of manifested this role down to the work environment. And
Mm-hmm.
so, when I started in my role, the department was new. So, I was hired on January 2021. The department within the city of Dallas, Data Analytics and Business Intelligence, was new as of October 2020. So, they were continuing to build out their team. So, at that time, they actually did not have an office space, and so it took about 2 years to build that office space
Oh
out.
wow.
So we were 100% remote for at least the first 2 years of my career.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't start going into the office until towards the end of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And because by that time we had built out a team of about 35 individuals, we occupied two different spaces in our building. It was the building was our spaces that we were building out. They were set up to be
Mm-hmm.
hotel style, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
had a couple cubicles on one floor that can occupy up to like 10 people, and that was more so supposed to be the quiet space to work. And then the other side of our building, we had more so like collaboration spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So our director, because she's very eclectic, she made it to where like these space this is for us to come here and collaborate. This is a
Mm-hmm.
quiet space, but because our area of the building is not occupied like wall to ceiling with cubicles, not all of us could be there at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
we have core days where we go in one day a week, and because I'm a manager, I also go in as needed. So I actually went in today for a presentation. I was there half a day for the presentation, came home so I could get back online and finish up my work. The work itself is pretty much self-managed, and that's because like most tech jobs, you may have a meeting at the beginning of the day, or in my team's instance, we meet at the beginning of the week to discuss our task for the week, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'll have one-on-ones at the end of the week with my team members. So it's self-managed. You're given
Right.
tasks to do, and it's up to you to complete those tasks with the time allotted to you throughout the week to do. I don't want to meet with my team. And as my manager, one phrase she says all the time is like, don't allow people to put the monkeys on your back. Meaning, if they didn't complete a task, it was a crazy task when she used to say it over and over again. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until like a manager that I realized like, you know, you you don't want a person that's working with you or on your team to be there like twisting their fingers because they can't
Mm-hmm.
solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't tell you they couldn't solve the problem, and you meet with them a few days later and ask them, okay, let's go over your project, and they're like, I didn't do it because I didn't know what to do.
Mm.
And now the monkey
Excuses.
is on your back because
Yeah.
you're like, this has to be presented to higher ups tomorrow. So
Yeah.
I now have to scramble because you didn't do your job. So it is very self-managed work to where you want to make sure that you're pulling your own weight. I tell my team, like, you're hired to do a job. Like, I'm not gonna check on you every day. I'm not gonna ask you where this is, where that is. You're hired to do a job. I trust you to do your job, and I trust you to deliver when you're supposed to deliver. So
Right.
it is very self-starting. You have to manage your own time, and you should pull your own weight in this industry.
Gotcha. Gotcha. No, that's good. That's good. So tell me a little bit about the support system that you talked about before, because you said that there were a couple of young ladies in the cohort that you went through it with. What did that support system look like for you, and or for the three of you all, and why did you all feel it was necessary to create a similar group?
So this was before COVID, so this was an in-person environment.
Mm-hmm.
And for a person like myself, I am a pretty extroverted person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm tasked to do something with a group of people, like we're gonna get down in the weeds. There is no siloing myself off and well, I'll just deliver and we don't have to talk about anything. So
Sure.
I feel like any place you go, you need to build a community, and the community just kind of helps you go further because in turn, that helped me when I transitioned into my work environment with it being 100% remote.
Mm-hmm.
And, with me being an extrovert person, it wasn't hard to be 100% remote. I just knew I needed to put forth a little bit more effort in reaching out to people who I had never met, who were
Right.
on my team.
Right.
But, at the time, we didn't have a policy for cameras on. So I would be working on a team of folks under my manager, and, folks didn't have their cameras on. Or, I was tasked with, helping them do something. I made it my mission to like reach across the aisle and say, hey, could we meet for maybe 30 minutes and you could tell me about your project?
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to kind of build that rapport with people that you work with so that if you ever need something, you're not asking them and you haven't talked to them in months, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're building that rapport, you're kind of building that community. So not only was it important in my boot camp, it's also important in like your professional life to make sure that you're reaching across the aisle. That if you see that there's somebody in a place that you want to be, you're making
Mm-hmm.
that conscious effort to communicate with them. Also during the boot camp, we were also going to networking groups together, right? There was one in our local area called Women Who Code. And whenever they had events hosted at whoever was hosting the event, they would have them at their workspace.
Mm-hmm.
We would go together because again,
Nice.
you kind of feel like when you were in school, you're being the new student and having to go visit somewhere. It's easy to do
Yeah.
that kind of stuff in a group.
Yeah.
That group energy kind of helps. So we would go to different networking events together. And we would introduce ourselves. Like we had to. One of the young ladies was shy, so she kind of fed off the energy of me and another young lady, and we were just that kind of helped pull her out of her shell so she can introduce herself as well. So you don't realize, even if you're the quiet person, find a group of people that are more talkative, tag along with them, they
Mm-hmm.
will propel you forward. So
Yeah.
that group or that finding that clique or that group like really helped kind of in when you're trying to navigate a new industry, especially when it comes to networking, especially when you maybe feel a little discouraged about your resume or not doing well on calls or practicing. It really helps to not be doing it by yourself.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Um, so the program that you went to, 24 weeks, what was the cost of that program?
So that cost for that program at that time, and again, this is pre-COVID. A lot of programs were free, but it was $15,000.
Wow. Wow. So
And so
what was it that made you feel confident enough to invest $15,000 in yourself, having never even done this? Right, there are a lot of people who may just say, "Oh, let me try to watch some YouTube videos. Let me try to buy a $20 Udemy course." Right? What was it that gave you the conviction to say, "I'm gonna take the time off from work, the 24 weeks. I'm gonna invest $15,000, and I'm gonna travel down this road of like that I've never been down before"?
So it was deciding to honestly bet on myself. And when people see the sticker prices of things like that and say, "Wow, it's $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy." You know, I could have been on YouTube. I mean, I could have also probably learned what I learned in college off of YouTube, but I didn't. Right? I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I invested in college, or somebody invested in my college career, some kind of way, whether it was loans, scholarships, whatever. There was an investment put there, and
Mm-hmm.
so I saw the benefit of it. And so, why not continue to invest in yourself? Right? What was $15,000 compared to the loans that I had?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, let me go ahead and pay for this program. And I was also looking at the numbers. So, you know, like the Bureau of Labor Statistics has, you know, the potential growth for this field. And I'm like, okay, well, it's almost guaranteed that I can get a job and get a higher paying job. And my
Mm-hmm.
philosophy is, you know, school is not a scam. If you can pay for whatever, what was $15,000 to the 60 plus $1,000 that I was going to potentially be making when I get out of it. So that's how I
Mm-hmm.
looked at it, the return on investment. If I was going to make a certain amount of money coming out, then I can invest in myself and just, you know, pay that off to finish school.
Sure. Sure. No, that definitely makes sense. That makes sense. What does an average like work day look like for a data analyst, right? So in your first role, like what type of tools were you using? What type of problems were you solving? Like, 'cause a lot of people hear data analysts, they hear, you know, IT, and they think like you're like working in the matrix, like trying to hack into, you know, some system or whatever. Like from a business perspective, like what type of I guess data problems are you solving, and what does that look like
Mhm.
for you on a daily basis?
So, in my first role, my typical day to day, once I was given a project, and typically for us, when we're given a project, your turnaround time is not, oh, we need this by the end of the week, right?
Hmm.
That's more so of a report. I need a report from Excel that's a subset of my project. My
Hmm.
project was usually to develop a deliverable in the sense of a tool, like a Tableau dashboard.
Hmm.
And so I was usually given a project. We were given 3 to 6 months to complete it. And when you're like 3 to 6 months, that's crazy. Well, realistically, when we're looking at our like project management tracking tools,
Hmm.
we have we're not the only dependency. You know, we have data engineers who house the data that we need to
Hmm.
get the data from. We have
Hmm.
security people who have to grant us certain permissions. So there's a whole bunch of dependencies that go in our project. And again, these projects are only given to one person.
Right.
So early on, we would have what we called like a backup person on our project, and that was just a person that knew where everything was because you always need to plan for contingencies, right?
Hmm.
Or
Hmm.
like my director says, if I win the lottery and I run up out of here, somebody has to know what I left behind. So, so you have to prepare. You also have to like tag your other person along to kind of show them, you know, hey, this is where everything is. So if I
Hmm.
was given a project, let's say, and I can talk about a project that one of my analysts produced and it's actually public. He worked with the Office of Government Affairs for the city to create a grant tracking dashboard. And
Hmm.
so a lot of city governments, they get federal grants for projects that they're doing
Hmm.
within the city. And so they may have housed all this grant data in a dashboard, right?
Hmm.
I mean, not a dashboard, an Excel sheet, because
Hmm.
surprise, surprise, a lot of people still use Excel sheets. So we wanted to, one, get access to the data so that we can create a dashboard to kind of present that in a very easy, like digestible way for the public to see that
Hmm.
this is where these grants are coming from. This is how much money is coming in. And this is where these dollars are going, right?
Right. Right.
And then we also, because we work within the city and we are working with a lot of people who are not data literate, we talk to them and advise them on the best way to house data, right?
Hmm.
So let's say we got that data in Excel sheet and we realized, okay, so you said that this is coming from let's see, the US Transportation Department, right?
Hmm.
Well, why do we not have, I don't know, a URL to the transportation department so people can read more about these grants?
Sure.
Because let's say that I have a small business and I want to see, hey, what data, I mean, what grants does the bureau, I mean, does the transportation department give out to small businesses? If I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at this dashboard that you guys put together for your grants, let me go check them out myself.
Right.
And so we started telling the stakeholder, hey, could you include these links? Because, someone who's looking at the dashboard may be interested in this data. So there's a lot of back and forth between the stakeholder, like us advising them on data best practices,
Mm-hmm.
what's the ideal way to kind of take stuff in and to record things. That way it makes sense on the back end, on the
Sure.
front end.
Sure.
Because we like to say good data in, you put junk in, you get junk out,
Right.
right? And so these projects again could take 6 months to complete, and that's only because there's so many moving parts where we're like we're iterating, right? We look at the data. This is bad data. Could you add this and that? They give it to us. We look at the data again. Oh, this is still bad. So we can do that back and forth for
Right.
almost 2 months, and then till we get something that's worth cleaning. So 80% of the job is actually cleaning the data, while
Mm-hmm.
the other 20% is kind of coming up with a pretty dashboard,
Gotcha.
which is like painting the house. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. So as you look forward in your career, like what do you see the next steps for you? Like how do you get to the next place in your career? Is it, some additional trainings that you've got your eye on, learning additional tools? Is it just kind of growing within the role that you're in? What helps you open the door to the next level in your career?
So currently, because I am a manager now, I don't do as much of the hands-on um, like application creation but also because I have a team of folks that are pretty early in their career. I have also invested my time in kind of, making sure that they have the resources they need, um, making sure that, I knew what my path was, and I just kind of turn around and give them the same resources. So if there are any
Sure.
conferences that I can recommend them to, I do make sure that I keep my eye out for that. If
Mm-hmm.
there are any training programs, so we use Tableau, which is a business intelligence software, which we just create visualizations with. I make sure that I am up to date with what any updates Tableau has. If they have any training, I'll make sure to bring that back to my team. So as a manager, because I'm not an individual contributor, I do kind of miss doing that. So I've picked up working with Flexi, which is a startup company, and they have an app where they are trying to get young workers between the ages of like 16 to 24 working jobs. It's almost like the Uber, right? Where they can pick up a shift at McDonald's, they can pick one up
Mm.
at Chick-fil-A,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
so I joined my cousin who actually pulled me in on that project. He's the head analytics person over there. So I've joined him in kind of helping them build out that app and providing the analytical support that they need. So it's that's going to be an interesting journey. I'm a kind of person that like I am always looking for the next thing to do.
Mhm.
So this right now is my next thing to do. And with taking on this project, I am brushing up on, or rather, learning data engineering skills, which
Okay.
is a whole different phase of the whole data family. We have data analytics, which is more so the visual stakeholder kind of stuff. We have data science, which is more so machine learning. They're building out algorithms, and then the data engineering. That's more so the data warehousing phase of things in the data analytics stack. So that's my next thing as far as what I'm doing since I'm not an individual contributor anymore.
Gotcha. Gotcha. No, that's good. That's good. So we've partnered together. You and your cousin Ryan and Manta Tech have partnered together to create a data curriculum for people who are interested in potentially transitioning to a career in data and being a data analyst, scientist, engineer, potentially one day, right? And so if you have listened to this interview and data sounds like something that is interesting to you and is a potential career that you'd like to transition to, you can text the word data, DATA, to 469 382 5890. That's 469 382 5890. I'll leave some additional information down in the description so that you guys can get notified whenever we have a webinar and you can have an opportunity to listen to Tomeka and have a conversation with her and, ask any of the burning questions that you may have. Tamika, do you have any like closing thoughts or remarks for anyone who is considering making a transition to a career in technology or hopes to one day work in data?
Specifically for data, I would say that I know this sounds very like technical, but data is used. We are data points in some like someone else's world. As my director says, she says this all the time that if you are using something for free, you are the commodity.
Yeah.
So if you sign up for an app and they're like, "Oh, it's free," no, they have your data. They
So
want to know
like
your
Facebook,
purchasing. Yeah,
Instagram, Twitter.
you are the commodity. So when you're getting those ads, Facebook is like, don't worry, we're collecting free data on Victor. We know all we know where he shops, we know what kind of car he drives, we
Yeah.
know his YouTube playlist. We are sending targeting ads to him because we're selling his data to other businesses so that they
Mm,
can market to him.
mm,
So data is around us in the sense that you are the commodity. So if you can understand how people are like targeting you via ads, marketing, how they know you were just how Google knows you were just leaving Target when you walk up out the store and they ask you for a review. Like you need to know how this world is moving, how you're the commodity.
right.
And the flip side of that is if you want to use that data for good, while it's working with your local, school district, they always need data analysts working with your federal government because the government is trying to get hip to this stuff too. People think the government's like over your shoulder and hacking your computers. No,
Mm,
you gave that permission to Google and Facebook a long time ago. So if you want to use that like data for good, there are opportunities for you to do that,
mm,
and just kind of be in the know. This is a growing field, so there is tons of opportunity. Data is the goal of the 21st century. So definitely hop on our side and just become data literate.
wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Tomeka. Again, shoot us a text, data to 469-382-5890. And we hope to see you in one of our upcoming webinars, in our inbox, or hopefully in our upcoming cohort. And with that, I say thank you, Tomeka.
Thank you.
You have a great day. Peace.